Deltarune's newest chapter added a lot of really cool enemies with secrets I'd love to tell you all about, but because I have to cover all my bases, we've got to start with the stupidest enemies. Yeah, the Trashy Trio are technically the first new enemies you can find in this chapter of Deltarune, and they're just a silly joke fight. They're surprisingly hard, they get a theme that is meant to make fun of the fandom, and for as silly as they are, their secret is even sillier. Now, I know how this looks, everyone, but I promise you, I'm not this terrible at this video game. This was all done on purpose. I have nearly spared the Trashy Trio, and this fight is unique because it contains a lot of acts that give you mercy during the enemy's turn. A lot, I mean two, layup and cleanup. And because Chris and Susie are the only party members left and they're almost dead, it is fully possible for us to get the Trashy Trio's mercy meter to 100% on the same turn that we die to them. Newbert just took us down. And because this fight instantly transitions into a cutscene with the mics once you hit 100% mercy, we are going to watch this whole cutscene play out with Chris, Susie, and Rouse dead as doornails. This is probably one of the only fights in the game where you can just be dead and win the fight. And make no mistake, we are winning this fight, although as rule says, it's really a tie, because we did get defeated in battle by the Trashy Trio, but the game doesn't care, the game tells us we won anyway, and we get no reward from this fight, so who cares? I guess I care enough to add them to this video, but the Trashy Trio get overlooked so heavily, that's their literal only character points, that why not throw them a bone? And now that I've done my charity for the day, let's move on to the actual secrets with the enemies people care about in Deltarune Chapter 5. And before I continue, if you guys know everything I have to share with you today, you don't learn anything new, then you can feel free to leave a dislike on this video. However, if you've learned anything new throughout the course of this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to Kilroy Was Here. Now, let's go find some more interesting enemy secrets, shall we? And since we're already doing them in order, our second secret will be about the first Floridin you can find in the Dark World. I love Floridins, they're wild little guys, and one thing I know about them is that they love being flattened. I don't know why, there's just something about them, it makes them into the most chill little dudes possible, and you can see it, it's all right there in the eyes. But flattening them one time isn't enough. You can flatten Floridins up to 6 times, and they will get flatter and flatter and flatter each time. After the 6th one though, they will not get any flatter. Not that it's easy to notice. Honestly, I had flattered the same Floridin multiple times in my own playthrough, and I never noticed the change. Cause look at what one flattering does to a Floridin who's already flattened. Even when I zoom in on it, it's hard to see the difference. But you really get to see the difference when you have a partner. You get to see one Floridin who's just a little bit flat, and another one fully zonked out, fully crushed into perfection. Yeah, the sprite work adds so much characterization to all of the enemies in Deltarune. Even these guys, who aren't enemies you find in battle, still get beautiful animations and sprite work done. And if you want to look at all of them, you can go to the highly unvisited recruits menu, as long as you're doing a pacifist or spare everyone playthrough, that is. But the thing with a lot of these sprites you can see in the recruits list is that they loop perfectly well. In fact, it's not just some of the sprites, it's all of the sprites. All of them except for Shiri's. Shiri is given the short end of the stick with an animation that just doesn't loop correctly. Why? Shiri already is an enemy with one encounter, and you can never find them again in this chapter. And in fact, I went through it. Every individual enemy that can be recruited in this game has either a functioning still or a looped animation that works totally correctly. Well, everyone except for Shiri. And I'm a Deltarune fan. I can't accept that things are glitches or mistakes. This is a deliberate choice by Toby Fox. And this is more proof that he has an anti-Shiri agenda. Not only did they appear in Chapter 1 without an ability to fight them, but even when he put them in Chapter 5, you can only fight them once. These creatures did something to Toby in the background, and I will not rest until I find out what. Okay, maybe I'll rest a little, because I have to move on from Shiri to talk about She, one of my favorite enemy types in this entire chapter, because they have so many good bits like this guy right here. They're very talkative, even though they're not very agile or mobile. Normally, you intimidate them, you hit them with a hard T-pose, and you win. Or, you intimidate them and hit them with a slightly less good T-pose, and you win after a couple more acts. but have you ever seen what happens if you completely fail to pose against these guys? Well, you'll find Chris, Susie, and Rousey doing the YMCA pose, which proves that the village people exist in the world of Deltarune. Somehow. Just like somehow the Peanuts exist in the world of Deltarune as well. But the sad part is, we only get YMC in our poses here. If only there was a fourth party member in this chapter. In this chapter where there are things we need to do with 4 people instead of 3 people at some points.
Hey, Raleigh.
Well, once you move past the She, you enter a room where you meet the Leaflings, enemies that float across the wind, and enemies that you can hit in the overworld. I don't really know if there's any other enemies like this in this chapter that you can actually interact with when you're in the sword, feather, 2D mode, whatever you want to call it. But for Leaflings, you can just kind of knock them around. The second you actually make contact with them, you will get into a proper battle, but you can maneuver them to basically be avoided forever because of this hitting and because you can jump around them. What's interesting about them too is that only one of them is allowed on the screen at any given point in time. As you can see, they kind of pop out of corners once they disappear from your view, but if you just continue to follow one, you'll never find another Leafling on the screen, because I guess that's just how they're programmed. It's not really anything crazy, but it is kind of a cool little detail. What is most interesting though, is that this state, where they're all carefree and they don't go to attack you, is only the state after you fought them at least once. If this is your first playthrough, and you want to dodge these enemies in this 2D mode, well, good luck to you, my friend. These guys are relentless. They will disappear if you jump down off a cliff, but doing so will just put you back to where you started. If you're a speedrunner, I couldn't even imagine. Yeah, imagine trying to dodge these things all the time. Yeah, that is the thing I showed you earlier, where if it doesn't stay on the screen in front of you, it will just teleport wherever it wants. These things are a nightmare to try and dodge. Although, it's not impossible, as I can show right here, as I was saying. They disappear once you get this far. And yes, I had to reset my save file for that. But the second you go back to the left side of the screen, they will reappear with their tenacious vigor to encounter you. I really just don't understand it. Like, it's because, for a gameplay reason, Toby wants to make sure you encounter these guys. And he does a good job. But really, Leafling floats by carefree. This is a straight up lie. These are the most aggressive enemies that have ever existed in these games. I don't know if anyone chases you harder than these little leaf guys who are supposedly so carefree. So here's the deal. These umbrella guys in Chapter 5 aren't enemies, but this guy is not an umbrella. It is a Netsuki. The Konkon Kiki makes it clear, but also if you don't pay, he'll say, "My big fluffy tail's too big to fit. I need to pay to get it shrunken down." So it's very clearly not an umbrella. If you pay him, he will just say, little do they know they have a use, and then tell you about Flower Cafe, where you will be able to use all your flowery dollars later. But the thing is, you can also come to this guy without enough money to pay for even $1 and 1 flowery dollar. And if you do so, you get very special dialogue. Very, very special. What the Zoff? You don't have enough dollars? Zoff, I looked at initially and I was like, what is this made up nonsense word? It's just Fox backwards. Okay, everyone, be cool. I don't know why this Netsuki is talking backwards, but it's just Fox backwards. They then continue to say, "Oh, you must be a beggar too. Oh, your tail must be as big and fluffy as mine." And at this point, even though I was still kind of annoyed at the random backwards word, I can't be mad at this guy anymore. He just said I had a huge, big, and bushy tail just like him. And you know what? With that kind of compliment, I will accept any nonsensical speaking quirk. By the way, this whole interaction is about 50 times stupider because this chest has 50 flowery dollars. So now I can donate to this guy 50 more times. And this is even more reason why it's nearly impossible to see the dialogue for not having enough money to give to this guy. Because most people would run out of flowery dollars first. If you have 0 dark dollars at this point in this game's life cycle, then I just don't have any way to save you, I'm afraid. Okay everyone, this next secret has to do with the Cawcaws, an enemy dear and near to my heart and many other people's hearts. So much so that I've already talked about them pretty extensively in previous videos, and how you can mess around with their axe to do some crazy stuff. So I'm going in a different direction today. You probably know that if you successfully call over a Kaka mid-battle, he will lick you all over and he will lower the speed of your soul. Did you know though that you can already lower the speed of your soul by holding X or Shift mid-battle? So what does that mean for sticky soul mode? It means that this is the normal speed and this is the slow speed. You can go slower than has ever been achievable before in this video game by combining these two mechanics. So I want to set a challenge or maybe just a request to any modders out there. Please mod this game so that I can play at this speed permanently. I want to see if it's possible to beat this game by not only holding X, but by holding X and being saliva'd all over. Maybe this is possible in previous chapters, maybe not. Whatever the case, this game is too easy, and I want the companionship and love from the Kakas on my side in this ultimate challenge. Now this is a nostalgic site. In a previous video, I found out that by ignoring all of these chests and going right to the mushrooms, you could get a lot of netskis to come out and take them all from you. And because of that, and because of the way this area is situated, you could drop these netskis off the cliff. Like so. Very informative stuff we do at Kilvoid Was Here. But I've already covered this, and something far more interesting came to my attention. Interesting dialogue. When you have a netski on your head, this is the only room where you can try and climb a vine with this thing up here. And if you do, you can't climb a tail-shaped object while holding a fox. Very, very good. Although, I was kind of surprised when I first saw this. These vines don't usually make me think of tails. That one on the left kinda does, the one that it looks like Rousek could hook onto, but everything else just looks like normal vines to me. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe these are obviously tail-shaped objects. And by the way, there's a lot of dialogue like this. Someone else bit it first. If you try to get more mushrooms while having netski on your head, well, netski, I will not drop you off a cliff because you have done me a service and helped me learn new information and secrets about a game that I love. I did also want to see if opening the chest did anything, but it does not. So, at most, you can just have a netski on your head, and you can fail to climb and fail to get mushrooms while doing so. This guy really stops you from doing anything fun, which is why he often deserves to be thrown off a cliff. You may not notice it, dear viewers, but this music is in-game music, which I normally don't play. Not that it's easy to turn off music in Deltarune, because there's no separate volume controls for music and sound effects, Toby, but whatever. I have music on this time because it's vital to showing you this Shinobeetle's secret. This Shinobeetle says his true passion is making small and hidden trains, which, if you've explored this whole castle, you probably know what this guy's talking about. Shout out to all my choo-choo choosers out there. But the second dialogue that Shinobeetle has, I want you to listen carefully. Did you hear something in that second piece of dialogue? If not, I understand, and I will play it one more time to see if all of you dear viewers out there can catch it with the music. There's something there, it's kinda hard to hear, which is why I will now be turning off the music. Music killed, and now we listen, everyone. For whatever reason, the Shinobeetle here has train sounds that plays off of his second dialogue here. Not that you would ever know it under normal circumstances, because it's very muffled and barely audible when there is music on in this game, which is all the time. But yeah, definitely train sounds. I don't really know what the implication is. I guess that the Shinobeetle knows you've been to see the train before, but also I don't understand much further than that. Why would the train noise play? And why would he make a knowing smile that would make us feel our cup tremble? It just, I don't friggin' know, man. Toby likes adding random sound effects to make jokes, and you know what? As a content creator, I can respect that. That's what I do in half of these videos. Bye-bye! No, not bye-bye, Mario. We've got one last enemy's secrets to cover in this video. The terracotta. This room is full of terracotta statues, but only really full of 2 actual terracotta enemies. Except for when it's not, because while you are chasing the netski in this room, you can spawn more terracotta enemies other than just this guy and the one to the left there. Essentially, a secret was added for speedrunners, or basically for anyone who was trying to avoid enemy encounters. If you try to rescue this fox in this room before you have fought any terracotta, then more of them will come to life in the middle of your chase. They only will come to life, however, if you are actively trying to get this Netsuki out of the room. If you're in a chase with either of these two terracottas and you're not trying to get that fox out by running into it, then these two will be the only ones who ever follow you. However, the second you start chasing this Netsuki while you have these guys hot on your trail, then you will notice something new at the exit to this room. That being 2 new terracotta soldiers ready to stop you from getting your fox and avoiding battles. It's pretty funny. I noticed this for the first time when I was basically just trying to do this on a casual playthrough, but it's something I've wanted to share for a while. But there is another thing I wanted to figure out. Those extra terracotta seem based on these two near the entrance. So what happens if they met with a little accident? Because apparently these are living and breathing terracotta enemies underneath these statues. At the very least, that's what the last encounter has led me to believe. If you set up the same chase sequence, with those terracotta soldiers missing from the entrance, I wouldn't have been surprised if they still showed up. But they don't! Mr. Fox is actually adhering to logic for once in one of his gags, and if you knock them off, they will not turn into more soldiers. But unfortunately, I think that does prove that we are killing terracotta soldiers who are alive in those suits when we're pushing them off the edge. Those two at least. Well, now that I knew that I could knock these two guys off the edge, and that would get rid of them entirely, I wanted to do something more innocuous, mess with them a little, move them around the room, and see if they spawn in those very odd locations after we actually set off the secret. It'll be a cool prank if it worked. They will never see it coming. And it turns out that it half worked. One of them moved over here, the other one vanished from existence entirely. And I wanted to check it more, but then I got caught. The weird thing is, the one that stayed behind seemed just not alive. It has the leaf coming out of its head, but it did not chase me. And after the fight was over, all enemies in this room disappeared, including that one. So, not much to do at that point. Still fascinating to learn, and I have one more secret to share with you all. Given that you can move and arrange these terracotta statues in any way you want, you can arrange them to softlock yourself. It is now impossible to get into this room, but you saw when I interacted with that statue, it shook while these stayed still. That's because you can knock it out of the way. There's variations to this softlock breaking too. You can also make the statue disappear, and the classic, you can make it splat on the ground, because Chris is just that powerful. And that's pretty much everything I had to share with you in regards to the terracotta enemies and statues, my dear viewers. There is a lot, and it's really funny how much that one gag has actual logic to it. I would have easily guessed that by moving the statues, it would have done nothing, and that those two enemies just appear if you're chasing this guy at all. But no, for whatever reason, Mr. Fox gave thought to this. And for all the other secrets, let me know out there, my dear viewers, if you knew all of them. And if you learned anything from this video, well, I'm sure you would enjoy everything else I have to offer. Have a good day, everyone.